In the winter of 1959, in the remote Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union, one of the most chilling and baffling mysteries of the 20th century unfolded. 9 experienced hikers set out on an expedition to a mountain known by the local Mansi people as Kolit or Dead Mountain. They never returned. What happened to them became known as the Dyatlov Pass Incident, a story filled with bizarre clues, conflicting evidence, and theories that range from the plausible to the outright paranormal. The group was led by Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old radio engineering student. All 9 members were skilled skiers and mountaineers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute. They were young, adventurous, and well prepared for the harsh conditions of a Level 3 winter expedition, the most difficult category. Their plan was to trek across the northern Urals and summit Otorten, a mountain a few miles north of where the incident occurred. They began their journey on January 27th, documenting their travels with diaries and cameras. These photos, later recovered, show a group of smiling, high-spirited friends, posing for pictures, building campfires, and enjoying their challenging adventure. The early entries in their journals described the trek as difficult but manageable. Everything seemed normal. On February 1st, they began their ascent up the slopes of Kolit. Bad weather, including worsening visibility and strong winds, likely caused them to deviate from their planned route. They decided to make camp on the exposed slope of the mountain, a strange decision for experienced hikers who would normally seek shelter in the forest below. This was their last camp. When the group failed to send a prearranged telegram by February 12th, their families grew concerned. A search and rescue operation was launched. It wasn't until February 26th that the search party discovered the abandoned campsite, and what they found was deeply unsettling. The tent was half buried in snow and had been sliced open from the inside. It seemed the hikers had cut their way out in a desperate hurry. All of the group's belongings, including their winter coats, shoes, and equipment, were left behind in the tent. This was particularly strange, considering the outside temperature was a lethal -25 to -30 degrees Celsius. From the tent, a set of footprints led down the slope toward a nearby forest. The footprints showed that the hikers were either barefoot, wearing only socks, or in a single shoe. They walked, not ran, in an orderly fashion down the mountain. Why would 9 experienced hikers abandon the relative safety and warmth of their tent, without proper clothing, to face the brutal Siberian winter? The first 2 bodies, those of Yuri Krivonischenko and Yuri Doroshenko, were found under a large pine tree at the edge of the forest, about a mile from the tent. They were dressed only in their underwear. Beside them were the remains of a small fire. The branches on the pine tree above them were broken up to a height of 5 meters, suggesting someone had tried to climb it, perhaps to get a better view of the tent or to escape from something. 3 more bodies were found between the pine tree and the camp: Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin. Their positions suggested they were trying to return to the tent. Dyatlov was found clutching a birch branch, his face turned towards the camp. Slobodin had a fractured skull, though it was deemed a non-fatal injury. The cause of death for these first 5 hikers was officially listed as hypothermia. While tragic, it seemed plausible. Perhaps an avalanche scare had forced them out of the tent, and they succumbed to the cold. But this was only the beginning of the mystery. It took another 2 months for the remaining 4 hikers to be found. In May, as the snow began to melt, their bodies were discovered in a ravine, about 75 meters deeper into the woods from the pine tree. These last 4, Lyudmila Dubinina, Alexander Kolevatov, Nikolai Thibault-Brignoles, and Semyon Zolotaryov, told a much darker story. Unlike the first 5, they had suffered horrific, violent injuries. Thibault-Brignoles had a major skull fracture. Zolotaryov and Dubinina had multiple broken ribs. The force required to cause such damage was compared to that of a severe car crash. A medical examiner stated that no human being could have inflicted these injuries. And most gruesomely, Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. Semyon Zolotaryov was missing his eyeballs. Adding to the strangeness, the 4 bodies found in the ravine were better dressed than the others. It appeared they had taken clothes from their deceased companions. Dubinina's foot was wrapped in a piece of Krivonischenko's woolen pants. Zolotaryov was found wearing Dubinina's coat and hat. And then there was the radiation. Forensic tests revealed that the clothing of several of the victims contained significant levels of radioactive contamination. The official investigation was closed in May 1959, just a few months after it began. The final report concluded that the hikers had died as a result of a compelling natural force. The files were classified and sent to a secret archive, fueling decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. What was this compelling natural force? And why the secrecy? Let's explore some of the most popular theories. The initial theory was an avalanche. The idea is that a slab avalanche buried part of the tent, causing the hikers to panic, cut their way out, and flee without their gear. Once outside, they became disoriented in the darkness and freezing temperatures and couldn't find their way back. This would explain the abandoned tent and death by hypothermia for the first 5. However, many experts have disputed this. The slope wasn't steep enough for a major avalanche, and there were no signs of one at the site. The footprints leading away from the tent were also too orderly for a panicked escape. Another theory involves the local Mansi people. Could they have attacked the hikers for trespassing on their sacred land? This was one of the first lines of inquiry, but it was quickly dismissed. The injuries were too severe to have been caused by human hands, and there were no other footprints found at the scene besides those of the hikers themselves. The Mansi people were also known to be peaceful and even assisted in the search efforts. Then we enter the realm of military involvement. The area was known to be used for secret Soviet military tests. The theory suggests the hikers accidentally stumbled upon a weapons test. This could explain the compelling natural force and the subsequent cover-up. The radioactive traces on their clothing support this idea. Some speculate it was a parachute mine test, which would explain the powerful concussive injuries without showing signs of external trauma. The strange orange spheres of light reported in the sky by other people in the region around the same time also lend credibility to military activity. And of course, there are the more fringe theories. Some believe the hikers were attacked by a creature, a Russian Yeti perhaps. This could explain the immense force of the injuries. Others point to UFOs and alien encounters, citing the mysterious lights in the sky and the unusual nature of the victims' wounds. A popular, more recent theory is infrasound. This proposes that certain wind conditions around the mountain created a low-frequency sound that is inaudible to humans but can induce feelings of intense panic, nausea, and dread. This could have caused the hikers to irrationally flee their tent. However, it doesn't explain the severe internal injuries or the missing tongues and eyes. In 2019, the Russian government reopened the investigation, but only considered natural phenomena like an avalanche, a snow slab, or a hurricane. Their final conclusion, announced in 2020, was that a small slab avalanche forced the hikers out of the tent. Disoriented in the dark with poor visibility, they were unable to return to their shelter and died of hypothermia. The severe injuries, they claimed, were caused by the crushing weight of the snow in the ravine where the last 4 were found. But many questions remain unanswered. Why were their clothes radioactive? Why were some of their internal organs missing? And what about the reports of strange lights in the sky? The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains a haunting puzzle. It's a story of courage and tragedy, a testament to the unforgiving power of nature and a breeding ground for endless speculation. The truth may have been buried in the snows of the Ural Mountains, but the mystery continues to captivate and terrify us more than 60 years later. What do you think happened on that frozen mountainside? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more unsolved mysteries.